it says that the story, which is accepted by historians, is in Sefer Toldos Jeshu. And Ernest Haeckel, quoting from that book, says in The Riddle of the Universe, the statement of the apocryphal Gospels that Pandira was the true father of Christ seems all the more credible when we make a careful anthropological study of the personality of Christ. He is generally regarded as pure Jewish, yet the characteristics which distinguish his high and noble personality and which give impress to his religion are certainly not Semitical. Now the name of Christ's real father, Pandira, points unequivocally to a Greek origin. In one manuscript, in fact, it is written Pandora. Pandira? Pandora. So, this is from the Jewish Gemara. So, the Sefer Toldos continues. Mary, having become the mother of a son named Jehoshua, and the boy growing up, she entrusted him to the care of Rabbi Elhanan, and the child progressed in knowledge, for he was well gifted with the spirit and understanding. Rabbi Jehoshua, son of Perechia, continued the education of Jesus after Elhanan and initiated him into the secret knowledge. But the king Janus, having given order to slay all the initiates, Jehoshua ben Perechia fled to Alexandria in Egypt, taking the boy with him. So, this little story that comes from the Jewish Gemara gives us more reliable information than all of the Gospels put together. First, the Gospels were not written during Jesus' time. Second, whoever the writers were, we do not know, were well aware of the mysteries, pagan mysteries of the times, and most of the statements that are taken from the Essenes will become more apparent as we go further along. So, why is this a story important? It is important in the sense that it tells us that Jesus lived during King Alexander Janus's reign. Well, this student went on the computer and I did find a lot of information on King Janus. It was 93 BC to 7 AD, I believe. My papers all got left at home today. 7 AD. So Jesus then is not a first century historical personality. He lived 1 century BC. This student never saw this anywhere else. 1 century BC, 100 BC. So it's important in that way. And the other thing is that King Janus actually did persecute and slay hundreds of initiates, who in those days were called innocents, infants, and little ones. And when we look at the reign of Herod, in whose reign Jesus has supposedly lived, there is no such information recorded. Oh. So, what is said in the Jewish Gemara is reliable information. It goes with what we are told, but the century is 100 years BC. The other point that comes out is that Mary entrusted the care of Jesus, her son, to a rabbi to raise him and inform him. So, according to Isis Unveiled, Jesus then is initiated into the Jewish inner circle when he was a very young person. Not old, very young. He is a boy when he goes to Alexandria, and he has already been initiated into the inner circle. And 2 points that are corroborated by the Masters and HPB is this. The position, and I'm quoting, from Isis. The position they give to Jesus, as far as we know, is that of an initiate who recognized no difference, save the moral one between men, who rejected caste and despised wealth, and who finally lived a century before our vulgar so-called Christian era. Jesus is constantly referred to as an initiate in theosophical literature, and in the ocean as he's referred to as an adept, an avatar, a member of that great fraternity of adepts. If he was a true initiate, as these words imply, and a member of that great brotherhood, which is the custodian of the wisdom religion, then he must have taught the same theosophical principles that we study today. If he, and this is again a quote, if he was an initiate of either the Pythagorean Essenes, the Chaldean Magi, or the Egyptian priests, then the doctrine taught by him was but a portion of the secret doctrine. And I'm not talking about this book, Secret Doctrine, I'm talking about the compilation of all of the wisdom of the ages, which is called the Secret Doctrine. And taught by the pagan hierophants to the few select adepts admitted within the sacred Adita. This student, doing a lot of research for the Egyptian mysteries, found out that Egypt went out of existence because the hierophants could not find the students to teach. That should tell us something. They could not pass their information on because there weren't suitable people left around. It was psychism was coming in, untruth was coming in. People were just diverging in all different directions. So we're told that the hierophants passed out of existence and took their knowledge with them because there were not enough worthy people to pass it along. But look what this does for us. HPB, in a very subtle way, tells us where Jesus has been. If Pythagorean Essenes, Chaldean Magi, and Egyptian priests all are involved in his synthetic knowledge, they all contributed to it. Again, it says here, he must have supplemented his knowledge of the ancient Egyptian and Chaldean systems with that acquired through study of the Pythagorean and Buddhistic philosophies. 4. 1. All his sayings are in a Pythagorean spirit when not verbatim repetitions. 2. His code of ethics is purely Buddhistic. 3. His mode of action and walk in life Essenian. 4. His mystical mode of expression, his parables and his ways, those of an initiate, whether Grecian, Chaldean, or Magian. For the perfect, quotation, who spoke the hidden wisdom were of the same school of archaic learning the world over. It is difficult to escape from the logical conclusion that he belonged to that same body of initiates. Isis Unveiled 2, page 337. So, we find out that he was brought up by a rabbi and initiated into the Jewish inner circle when he was a very young person. And when the rabbi went to Alexandria to escape the persecution by Janus, King Janus, he took the boy with him. Now, let us reconstruct his life a little bit, using a little bit of imagination and what is provided here. So, he finds himself with Rabbi Jehoshua in Alexandria. What do you think that city impressed on him? He must have been astonished, it says, at the magnificent palace of the Ptolemies and the grandeur of the museum and its gardens. Which museum are we talking about? The Brachian. And that Brachian had 1,000 scrolls of original documents gathered from all over the world. So he must have had an opportunity to look at them. What else? He must have gone out into the temple of Serapis, whose image was one day to be substituted for his own. Very interesting. He must have visited the great light. Well, I already said that. And he must have met some of the learned Jews who, like himself, had been initiated into the mysteries of the Kabbalah. But fascinating as the great city of Alexandria must have been, it did not hold the secret that Jesus came to garner. What was he there for? To garner the knowledge of the Egyptian magi or the Egyptian priests. So, south of the city of Alexandria, it says, lived a community of men known as Therapeutae. This was a group of people in the Alexandrian Judaism that constituted an esoteric section, an Illuminati, wise men. So Jesus' knowledge of healing and many of his miraculous cures are attributed to him and his communion with these individuals in the inner circle of the Kabbalah. The main object then of his stay is to gain a knowledge of the Egyptian philosophical system. What does he do for that? These secrets were held by the descendants of the ancient Egyptian hierophants, the Essenes. So he contacts a group called the Kanobi. Or Kanobi, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It just shows where these words seep into us. So Jesus established a connection with this group, and it is thought that perhaps he was initiated into the secret wisdom of Egypt by the Egyptian hierophants' descendants, the Essenes. So where are we going with that? Now this is in the secret doctrine. HPB gives us all kinds of little hints, and they're all footnotes. It's never in the main sections. Perhaps, we are told, he was initiated in the Great Pyramid of Giza, now called Cheops, which stands overlooking the yellow sands of the vast Libyan desert. Within it is a narrow passage leading up to the king's chamber, as it is now called, but which in the olden days was the Holy of Holies, or chamber of initiation. At the top of this passage is a narrow gate that leads directly into the initiation chamber. Did Jesus himself climb this very passage and go through this straight gate on the day of his initiation? What else did HPB mean when she said, quotation, "The narrow outward passage leading to the king's chamber had a narrow gate indeed, the same straight gate which leadeth unto life," or the new spiritual rebirth alluded to by Jesus in Matthew 7, and that it is this gate in the initiation temple that the writer who recorded the words alleged to have been spoken by an initiate was thinking of. Secret Doctrine, page 318.